And we're back from the holidays. Today is going to be, I think, pretty full of stuff because I finally have gifts I can show you. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. So this is the Textured Tee V2 crochet top by, I have it written down here, Tiger's Eye Handmade. I'm trying to be better about remembering and keeping notes and things. This is my top for the day. It was my first tested garment, actually, knit or crochet. This was it. Crochet was my first test garment, and I really liked the construction of it. That's what drew me to it when I saw the tester call. And since then, I've been following the designer on Instagram, and all of their patterns have been beautiful. Like, there have been so many that I wanted to test since then, and I'm always in the middle of something else. But it's a fun lace repeat that has some solid sections in between. I edged mine off, totally not because I ran out of yarn or anything, with a different color. I'll insert a full photo because there's a bottom lace section too. It's a crop. But basically, it's a rectangle that's seamed together. Super easy, lots of fun, super cute. That is what I'm wearing today. So, jumping into finished objects, like I said, today we have quite a few because I have not been able to show, I haven't shown whips of the gifts I was working on because I wanted them to be a surprise, obviously. And now that the holidays are over and the recipients have received their gifts, it is time for the reveal. So I'm actually going to insert a clip of what I recorded before the holidays while I still had everything, and I'll throw that in now. So I'm pre-recording this. By the time I actually post this, within another video, several weeks will have passed. You'll notice the outfit change and everything. But before I gave my Christmas gifts to the recipients, I wanted to share them here before I didn't have them anymore. None of them are finished yet, but they're close enough that I thought it would be time to show it and be able to kind of give enough of an idea of the bigger picture of what the finished product would look like. So I'm going to start first with what I made for my husband, or what I'm making for my husband, I should say. A while ago he had me make this little slime amigurumi for him. This pattern was free, I believe, on Ravelry, so if you check out my Ravelry, which I'll have that information in the description, you will find in my projects this little guy, and you'll also see what I'm going to show you. Anyway, he knew that I was making him this. He helped pick out the color of the yarn and the sizing of, I think it looks a little derpy, but apparently this is what they look like from Dragon Quest. Yes, I think that's the game. So they're these little slime creatures, and apparently they come in a whole bunch of different varieties. So this is like the regular slime. And he always said that he would love to find shiny, silvery yarn so that I could make him a metal slime, which is this super rare version of the slime in the game. I happened to stumble upon this ice. It's called ice yarn, I believe. Doesn't really translate on camera very well. But it is a shiny, silvery, metallic yarn. And it's a really thin worsted weight, but it's a worsted weight yarn. So you can see it's enough of a difference to be, I think this was Red Heart. So it's still quite a bit smaller. I sized down this hook considerably too, so I could get a tight, hold on. a tight fabric. That might show the sheen a little bit more. And it's kind of, it doesn't look as two-toned in the ball of yarn that it came in, but once it worked out, I noticed that kind of darker and lighter in spots too, which was kind of cool. So I'm working on the face for this currently. So I originally tried fabric glue to glue these little pieces of felt together, and they just wouldn't stick. I was kind of surprised because I usually use fabric glue for my amigurumi, but in this case it didn't work. So all of that, sorry, all of that is stitched together in layers because of the black outline, and then the white eyeball, and then the pupil, and then the mouth has 2 layers too. So I'm doing the same thing for this guy currently. The mouth's off screen, and I have everything cut out. It's just a matter of getting it sewed together and then sewed on here, and then I will be able to call him Dunskies. I'll probably do some reshaping a little bit before. I was using this one as a model to get the shape right, especially like the little teardrop bit. So they're pretty similar. So yeah, I thought that was a kind of a fun thing to do, and I'm really excited. I hope he likes the yarn that I picked, because I think that is a pretty metallic yarn. So we'll see. It took less than 1 ball. There's not much in a ball. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it was like a 50-gram skein, and I don't know, maybe like 100 and something yards. It wasn't a very big one, but had enough for one of these guys with it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I'm going to show this one next. So this is a shawl that I made for my mom. She taught me how to crochet and knit, but she prefers crocheting over knitting, so I decided to make her a knit shawl. But not only did I knit the shawl, I also hand-dyed the yarn. So in one of my earlier videos I talked about how I had ordered from Knit Picks, like November sale, and that I bought some yarn, bare yarn to dye, like Swish DK I think is it, for a secret project, and this is it. So this is actually the bare yarn. I left that undyed. This pattern's also my Ravelry, and the original design has an ombre, and I really loved the original ombre and wanted to put that into this project too, although that pattern is pink and my mom loves greens, so I picked green. But I hand dyed. I actually did this middle shade first because I was trying to test how dark I could go. I knew doing it light wouldn't be a problem, but I wanted to start somewhere and then I could work in either direction to make sure that I had 3 distinct colors. And the darkest color is only used on that bottom stripe, so it's kind of hard to show, but there's the darkest, and then each is set off with the undyed yarn. There's that middle tone, and then of course we have the pastel. So I used food coloring and Kool-Aid to dye these using like the stuff that I learned from ChemKnits. So this is just, I did a semi-solid for the lightest color. And then for the green, I don't know if it'll show up on camera. Oh yeah, right there's a good spot. So this is the middle tone, and I speckled it with purple. And I didn't go crazy with the speckling. Let's see if I can find another good patch. Oh, maybe right here. Nope, just kidding. Well, kind of. You can kind of see the purple. I did a pretty light hand to it just for like some variation. That's the middle tone I did. And then I had a hard time. I used up pretty much all of my green food coloring for the dark tone. I wanted to make sure there was enough of a difference. And originally this was going to be my darkest color. So I was already trying to go for a dark color here and quickly realized that I needed to stop at some point. I wanted to make sure, you know, that there was enough. This is almost too light. I think it's enough contrast, but almost similar enough to the undyed yarn. So I wanted to make sure I could have enough here be different and enough here. And there's quite a bit of a difference here. And then I was worried about doing the dark one. It all worked out. I ended up using all my green food coloring, but then I also used some green sprinkles. All the variation in color that you can see here, like there's some darker tones and I'd say more like bluish green. Sorry, the lighting on my camera is changing. Like, it's like deeper green tones in here that are kind of, yeah, I would say they're definitely more blue-green than this yellow-green. Those are where I dropped sprinkles in the pot while it was simmering and just let them kind of sit on the yarn. It had Kool-Aid in it, so it had citric acid for it to strike, as Chemnitz likes to call it. But you can see there's quite a bit of variation there. And that's all of the sprinkles. I dumped so many sprinkles on here. But they're sprinkles that my mom donated to me for yarn dyeing. So, like, I thought it was kind of a nice circle back, I guess. So yeah, that is this. This is called the Simple Things shawl. And I just realized I didn't grab that the designer's information, but I'll have that in the Ravelry, it's in Ravelry, and then I'll also have it in the YouTube stuff. But that's that. I think it's a half circle. I don't know. This is definitely such a great example. I wish I would have taken a before photo of what this looked like before I blocked it. It was not very impressive when I first bound it off from the needles because it was very, like, there was no definition. Like, you could see these little fans, like this part, because it's of the way the stitches are. I think it's a slip knit. So you could see these, like, tendrils, but it was all bunched up. Like, this is the classic example of how much of a difference blocking a project can make because it opened everything up. But the way you block it creates these, like, waves, because before it was pretty much a straight line across. So I don't know if I blocked it correctly. There wasn't like a full photo of it lying flat of the whole thing, which I would have found really helpful because as a beginner knitter, I have no idea if I did this edge right when I was blocking it. Also, I realized that even though I tried to find a looser way to bind off, my bind off was still really tight, so I wasn't able to get the really pretty, like, fine points that the original shawl had. Like, that's more along the lines of what it should be, but because it didn't have enough give, I got some of it, but definitely not as much definition as I would have liked. So, you know, you live and you learn. I know next time that this isn't a loose enough bind off. So yeah, I would say this probably doubled in size with blocking, and I just love the drape of knit fabric. That's what drew me to knitting so much to begin with, because of just how, like, loose and airy it feels. So I'm excited to give it to her. As you can see, I still have to weave in ends, but that's all I have left. I like to block first and then weave in after. So almost done with that one. Lastly, because I already shared the slime, you'll have seen my Cat Cardigan make appearances in a couple of my previous videos. My dad really liked it, and he nicknamed it the Cardigan. And he's not much of a accessory person, and he has a pretty plain wardrobe, but he loved it so much that I really wanted to try and find a way to modify that pattern in a way that he would hopefully use. And I'm not sure if I succeeded, but at least I came up with an idea. And so what I did, I used the same colors because he said he really liked them. And I'm not gonna be able to show the whole thing on frame, but I essentially made a lap blanket. And so I took like the size of the back panel. Oh, it would help if I showed you the right way too. So I took about the size of a back panel and just, I think I maybe added a few more cats to that. I made a separate Ravelry project page so I could keep track of how many stitches I used and everything. So it's about, let's see, before the border, now I can't remember how wide it was. I was trying to go for like a 36 by 48 because that seemed to be the standard lap blanket size. I don't think I'm going to hit 36 inches because I changed my mind on how I wanted to do the border after I already decided the width. So we'll see how wide it ends up being. I'm still working on the border, so this is still very much a work in progress. But I modified the ribbing around like the edge of the cardigan because I thought it would make a really pretty border, and so I just kind of modified it so that the corners, you know, built their way out. And then I'm doing ribbing right now. I think I'm 4 rows into the ribbing, and I think I want to do at least one more because I think a thick border just makes it look really nice. So yeah, this is where I'm at right now, or that's the beginning of the round, I should say. So I'm just working around the outside of the blanket, and I really like the way this pattern adds the borders because I think it makes for such a clean edge. I think I'm gonna start doing that for all of my blanket borders to begin with, or from now on, because I don't know, I'm just really satisfied with the way the border connects to the blanket. It just looks really clean and finished. So that is my cat lap blanket. So we will find out how that's received soon. So back to other finished objects. First, I think in my previous video I mentioned that I was hoping to get this done over the holiday break, but I don't know if I 100% believe that I'd be able to. But I am happy to announce that I finished my Dragonflight scarf like the day before my break was over. It's blocked and everything, ends woven in, completely finished, although I still need to take weights of how much yarn I used for my Ravelry project page. But I really, like, I think at the beginning of the break I was on row, and each row is a row of scales, and each scale is comprised of actual knit rows. So I'm using row on a bigger scale here, but I think I was on row 5. I think I had just started it before I had to stop and work on gifts. So I still had 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. I think there were 10, ended up being 10 rows. But it is done. I'll insert a full photo too, because camera angle with the way I have it set up is only so far away from the camera. You can only see so much in one frame. But this turned out, I'm so happy with it. This is my Night Fury and Light Fury yarn by Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits. And I had bought it earlier last year, it's 2021, and thought I had the perfect project in mind at the time of purchasing it, and then I found this pattern. And I just thought, with the way originally it was used with like one, I think it was one skein of variegated yarn, and it's a beautiful scarf with different tones of blues and things like that. But when I was looking at the way it broke down, it looked like the scales alternated, and I thought it would be fun for my Night Fury and Light Fury yarn for them to play off of each other. And actually, I thought it was gonna be a super huge pain because again, it looks like it's alternating one off, one off, and it's actually done in rows like this. So when you wear it, it looks like this, but the construction is more across in scales like this. And so it made it so much easier than I thought it was going to be to alternate between two colors, and it's so drapey and beautiful, and I'm so excited to start wearing this now that it's done. Oh, and the Light Fury yarn. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but it is sparkly. There's some stellina in it, I think. You can see it a little bit, but against the white it's kind of hard to pick up on camera, but I promise it is sparkly. It's pretty. It's perfect for Light Fury. I almost wore it for the podcast today, but then I decided there will be time to wear it, and I wanted to be able to like show it in some of its full glory. So yes, it is a really long shawl. Like it's probably 2.5 feet long, I'd say, from the straight edge to the very tip. Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate measurement. 2.5 feet. When I blocked it, some of my ends don't stay down as nicely as I would have liked to, and I'm sure that's just because of user error and me trying to still learn how to block appropriately. But it really opened up quite a bit. I wouldn't say I aggressively blocked it, but I definitely pulled it out, because right off of the needles it was really bunched up, and like the scales, instead of laying kind of like in a scale shape, they were really poofed and like bunched up. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what they were like, and so blocking them just really helped open those scales up. I keep hearing how people say like blocking is amazing, and I don't know why I keep being surprised when I block, because I've heard people say it, but I'm just continuously impressed by what blocking does for my pieces, especially with these projects where I'm using natural fibers versus like acrylic yarn. I mean, it's a night and day difference. In fact, I don't remember if I talked about it in the clip I inset with my holiday gifts, but the shawl that I made for my mom, I was a little disappointed when I cast off because of how sad it looked. And then blocking, I mean, it's a night and day difference what that shawl did. It really opened up. And that one I did aggressively block because it's lace and it needed it. So anyway, I don't want to get into that too much because I already would have inserted my clip about the shawl. So my last, I say last because right now I've only talked about 2 FOs, but there were quite a few in this video. My last FO for Christmas, my brother got me this little dude. The Mattel version of Baby Yoda. The child, Grogu, whatever you want to call him. And I don't even remember how I saw that people were doing like customizations for this particular version, but I saw someone selling crochet hat patterns and I decided I wanted to make a hat. Sorry, I don't know if I said crochet hat patterns or crochet hats. They were selling the actual hats. And that is when I started looking for patterns because I wanted to make him a hat for kicks. And I couldn't find one. And I don't know if it's just because maybe, I'm sure there's some that exist and maybe they're just so secretly labeled for copyright and all that good stuff that I just didn't use the right keywords or what. But I made a hat, and actually not just one but two little hats. This one, it's gonna probably be backwards, but this is a hat, the first one I made actually out of Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn, and I needle felted my alma maters, the cougar logo, onto the hat. And actually, it probably won't be out when I publish this video, but I wrote up a pattern essentially of how you can make your own hat. And I didn't do a whole lot of like testing or trial with other yarns and things, but I do have the Hobby Lobby, which I think worked the best because it stayed, this one was definitely easier to put on him. And I'll have a video in the pattern of how it goes over his ears. But it's going to be on my website, it'll be free. I think I might create something on Ravelry too that just links to my website. But it's essentially a little, people call them skull caps, like beanies. This one makes me happy. So it fits pretty tightly around his head. I basically worked a row and then put it on him so I could measure and gauge. The loosest part is in the back here, how well it was fitting him. So I did use a foundation single crochet row for this hat because I tried it originally with like the traditional chain and it just wasn't, it didn't have enough stretch. And even then I noticed there's a huge difference. Like these hats, this is Red Heart, I can't remember if I said that already, but the hats are actually pretty much the same size. But I noticed that the bands, and this one got starched a lot more because that was my dummy that I kept putting on and off. But even then, I feel like the Hobby Lobby has so much more give than this one. So this one I do struggle a little bit more to get it on him, but it's not impossible. So I feel pretty confident that as long as you're using the foundation single crochet, and she says that she tears everything, the foundation single crochet, and you are fairly close to gauge. I'd say gauge is pretty important for this, so that the fit as well. Like any other kind of hat or garment where the fit is important, you too can have a hat for your Mattel Baby Yoda if you'd like. This was my prototype. I also am toying with the idea of creating a ribbed slouchy beanie with a pom-pom. But we'll see, we'll see. I'm gonna see how this one does. And if people are interested, then I might try to figure that one out. But I thought for funsies, I would just put that together and throw it out there. I will put a link to my website in this video once the pattern is live. Like I said, it will be on my website. And so if it's not there now, it's not live yet. And hopefully I remember to come back and put that link in. And it'll be free. And yeah, it's just for fun. Really, that's all it is. So that is my FOs. Now we can move to whips. So the first one I'm going to talk about, I can't remember if I mentioned this in a previous video, but I'm doing my first test knit. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I talked about it in my last video, because I remember talking about the yarn. So I started it over break. Pardon me while I fetch it because I have a couple of, like, I'm really liking this pattern so far, and I really just plowed through it the other night. But now I have certain, like, you work part of the panel and then you put it, like, you set it aside, so I have the stitches on a piece of string, and then you work one of the, it's like a vest. If you saw my last video, I had a photo of what it is. It's called the, well, I'm gonna butcher the name, but Hiraeth Slipover. Slipover. It's a vest, but it's super cute. Oh, my strings all tangled. I've started on the second strap. That's the word I wanted. Second strap. And it's starting to increase into the other panel. So it's not going to look like much here because of the way it's all. This is my back panel. With the right side, yeah. So my back panel. Pretend this is not all twisted because right now it is. Back panel, and then strap 1, strap 2, and then I think eventually, so that's on string right now. The bottom I'll be picking up again later, I think, and maybe working in the round with the front panel once it's done. And then the right panel right strap I'm currently working on the increase on, and I imagine at some point I'm going to be doing another one of these, and then it'll come together. And so far it's been really fun to work with. I was nervous at the beginning, and every once in a while I get kind of like that panicky feeling, like what if I'm missing something because I'm not more versed in knitting. But I feel pretty confident in what I'm doing so far and the things that I've been able to catch and help the pattern tester with, or pattern designer with, and it's going well. I will have the information for that in my description too, the name and the designer, the pattern name. This is, oh, I have the yarn right here so I can tell you. Lion Brand Homespun in Montana Sky. Yep. And I'm a little worried about what my lace is going to look like. The bottom part of this vest has some lacier sections that I'm hoping will be visible after I block it because of the way this yarn is. I thought it'd be like fun. I had some of this in my stash, but I also thought it would be kind of nice to stick with like a more commonly accessible bulky yarn that you could just find at like a craft store. But I'm kind of worried that this texture is going to affect the lace. It has been not fun. Luckily I haven't had to frog too much. It has not been fun to frog. I feel like as I'm working with it more, I'm getting used to seeing what the stitches look like with this texture so that I can be better at finding where I need to pick up stitches, counting rows. I was struggling with that when I was doing my gauge swatches because it was so hard. I mean, even blocked, my stitches weren't very consistent in places because the yarn can be thicker and thinner, and so I was having a hard time seeing where my rows were. I think that's getting a little bit better now that I mean, it's been a couple weeks now or so since I've started it. So hopefully that's just a time thing, but we'll see what happens when I get to the lace part of it and what happens when I block it. It is acrylic. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I'm not 100% sure that it is. 98% acrylic, 2% other fiber. So I'm sure it'll block pretty much like acrylic, which means there's not going to be a whole lot. But we'll see. We'll see. It'll be an option at least. So with that, I think that's the only, no, that is not the only knit whip that I have going on right now. Herp derp. But I will show you the next whip, which is my only, sorry, my notes down here below. It's my only crochet whip actually. So you might remember this little guy from maybe 2 videos ago. This is the Gnome bottle topper by Nana's Crafty Home. Cute little crochet hat with a crochet nose and faux fur to make the beard. Sits on, in this case I had it on a wine bottle, but I'm making a few more, so I did another hat in the same color. Hat number 2 is in this really pretty reddish purple. Such a rich, beautiful color. And then hat number 3 I played a yarn chicken with, so I didn't quite have enough, but it's pretty similar. It's only like a couple rows short. In mustard, which is one of my favorite colors. And together I thought they would look really pretty. These like warm, rich tones. Oh yeah, those are gorgeous. For either a set or individual. I have enough faux fur to do 2 more gnomes, so I'm thinking I might see if I can get some different colors and maybe do like maybe black for the yellow to have a lot of contrast. Like a gray, like a heather gray, I think would be kind of cute with this one, and then it would be different from my original. And then I think black, the black would look really good with the purple too. So that's what I'm toying with right now. They're pretty easy to make. I just have to make the noses and then get some fur and sew it in. And they're super cute. I think they'd make for fun little gifts. But yeah, crochet whip. So now I'll talk about this one next because that one is a little bit of a hassle. So I think I've also mentioned previously that I was waiting to get a hat kit for the CrushBrimHat by the card right here. Bee Knits Handmade. No, focus. There we go. She does these patterns that work with it's different types of Malabrigo yarn. I purchased a kit from them. It's the Malabrigo Rasta, but I think Rios is another one that they design hats for. I think they have like hat clubs and palm clubs too. But the color I got was Verde Azul. Let me grab it over here. I've had to spread everything out. So I'll show you the yarn first, what I have left of this anyway. The hat is still on the needles. Look at the color. So pretty. Subtle but beautiful. I love it. And then I'm really hoping blocking will save this hat because I have been on the struggle bus a little bit. This is my first knit hat, I'm pretty sure. And I gauged a lot and had a really hard time meeting gauge. I had to size down to like size 9s and the pattern calls for 13s. And that was to meet gauge. And then once I worked up the pattern, it was like a child size hat. So I ripped it apart, tried it again, did bigger needles for the texture part of it, still too small, ripped it out, tried it again. And then eventually before the break, I ripped it out and I said, this will be a later problem. And I decided that the next time I'd try it for kicks, I would just throw it on 13s just to see. Because everyone in Ravelry, there were a couple people who noted they were having a hard time getting the fit right too, but the majority had beautiful hats, and I love this pattern and I'm going to make it work for me. So this is where I'm at. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. It's called the CrushBrimHat, and it's just this really fun texture, and I love the way this thick yarn, like, I'm not really a fan. Is this bulky? Oh no, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's bulky or super bulky. Yeah, I'm not seeing. It's 90 yards for a 5 1/4 ounce skein, 150 grams. Anyway, it just looks so satisfying looking at these stitches. Like, look. So I'm pleased that I got to this point, and I'm seeing, like, between the texture here and just the way this yarn works up in stockinette, I knew that I wanted to make something with this Rasta yarn, because it just, there's something about the way, I don't know if it's the way it's dyed, where it's kind of like the stitch, like the middle of the yarn is lighter, but then like the fuzzy outside of the strand gives it these darker outlines, so you have all of the stitch definition. And then this color palette too, I was like, this is happening. But you can see that here, down here, it's cinched in. It just pulled in tightly. I think it's bigger than what my other attempts were, so that's why I kept it this long. I'm on the decrease of the hat now, and then I'm gonna block it and see if that will help. I hope it doesn't stretch out the top too much, because I think the top is actually pretty spot on for where I need it to be. It's this part. And if it doesn't work, I will probably tear it apart again and probably go up a needle size down here. And I'm hoping I have enough yarn too, because I think the pattern calls for 85 yards and the ball is 90 yards, so not a lot of room for leeway. Not a lot of leeway for error. That's what I meant to say. But I still love it. And if I can get it to work, I will probably buy more yarn and make more. Also, it was fun getting the kit, because with this, I got this super cute, let's see if I can grab it, pom. And so it's gonna look so pretty with this hat. They pair poms with the yarn and you don't have to think about it. It's just there, and it's gorgeous, and I'm very excited. So anyway, the struggle has been real, but I feel like I'm making progress at least. And I just started this last night. Not all of the tearing apart and everything, but this attempt I started last night. Worked on a little bit this morning, but I just threw on some podcasts and knitted away. So pretty. Anyway, that's that whip. And my last whip. So for Christmas, one of the things I asked my family for was the Jimmy Bean's craft vent. You might have seen that I got the Dragon Horde yarn and Yarn Cafe Creations Hogwarts Year 4 Advent for this year, but because my husband bought me that, I didn't want to purchase another one, because while they're beautiful and worth it, they are quite a bit of money. So I figured this would be a good way to get both of them, but only have to end up covering the cost of one, essentially. But what my dad ended up doing the purchasing, and he ended up buying one for my mom too. So we have been working on the craft vent together. It's been a lot of fun we're doing the Tidings to You wrap, which is the knit version. I can't remember. I think the crochet one is called like Ginger Snap wrap. Yeah, I think it's something like that. But essentially, the craft vent is like the holiday advent that Jimmy Bean's Wool does. And they do a knit pattern and a crochet pattern and then like an advent that goes with it. And I was drawn to the cinnamon sugar colorway, which is these beautiful warm tones. There's like browns and mustards and rusty reds and all these beautiful, and I just, every time they posted about it, I just couldn't stop staring at the pattern. Both patterns were beautiful. Actually, it was really hard for me to choose one over the other, but I decided, because I'm trying to get better at knitting, that I wanted to do the knit one just for an extra challenge. So I got the cinnamon sugar colorway. See, I keep thinking ginger because ginger, I think of warmth. So Ginger Snap is the crochet pattern and cinnamon sugar is the colorway. So I lost my train of thought. Anyway, I got that color, and my dad ended up getting the other one, which is the Northern Lights colorway, and that was a lot of cooler tones, so blues, purples, pinks, for my mom, and also the knitting pattern. And it was really fun. We opened them together, comparing colorways and seeing how, like, even though mine was the warmer set and hers was the cooler one, like, the colors were very, like, each day they kind of had the same elements. In fact, like, we're on our second color words. We're on our second color right now, and for both of ours, it's like a purple, a dark purple, but mine is definitely more warm, while hers is a cooler purple. So it's kind of fun seeing how they kind of are similar but different. And obviously when you're doing warm and cool colors, you can't have the same colors, but it just felt like they had a lot of the same elements, I guess you could say. So even though the colors are completely different, there was a lot of cohesion between the two, which was really cool. So I don't have a lot to show right now because I'm gonna be honest. Oh, this is gonna be really loud. I'm keeping mine in the little mailer bag that it came in. I'm gonna try not to crinkle that too much. But the actual project, so each of them came in these super little cute bags that were all numbered. And it's not just a yarn advent. It came with the pattern, the needles, or day 2, I can't remember, one of those days. And then I got the stitch markers, the yarn, obviously, this little snap pouch, there's like scissors in there, some chocolate, I want to say there's like hot chocolate. It's cute. There's fun little extras that I've really enjoyed so far, but this is how far we're at right now. It's supposed to be like this, and it's a fingering weight yarn. It's all merino, oh no, Madeline Tosh merino light. That's what it is. So this was the first color, obviously, and we just transitioned into our second color. So this is that purple I was talking about, how mine's definitely more cooler toned. And I'm very excited to continue watching this grow. And once it blocks, it's a lace wrap, so it's gonna be beautiful once it blocks. In fact, it is. That's why I fell in love with it. So I've already opened them all because we got them for Christmas, and my mom and I opened them together. You know, the advent was already revealed at that point. In fact, outside of like the surprises, which I hadn't really seen a whole lot. I mean, you see the wrap before you order it, so it's not a mystery advent. But it was a lot of fun opening anyway. We dumped ours out on the table and opened it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So that is my next whip. Wow, my final whip for the video, but along with everything else going on, that is that. So lastly, I want to talk about, it's not quite a whip, but I did, since the last video, yes, I think last video was like on the 19th, finish opening my Harry Potter advent calendar, which was a mystery advent. And in my last video I talked about the pattern I'd finally decided on, but I have not started it yet. In fact, I'm probably going to gauge it this weekend. I was going to last night, and then I remembered I wanted to try that CrushBrimHat again. So I'll insert a clip of what this ended up looking like. Everything's caked up now. This is the final day 25, 100 gram mini, not mini, geez, 100 gram full skein. This is the Hufflepuff. Oh gosh, it's so beautiful. The Hufflepuff Year 4 colorway. This yellow is one of my favorite yellows. So, and I'm a Hufflepuff, which is why I chose it. So that's a little teaser. I'll insert a clip with the rest of them. They're all right here, and they're the cute little cakes next to me. But they're all ready to go. I spent on and off the week caking them up. I wanted to get a photo of them all in their little skeins before I did everything, so I had to wait for all of them to be opened. And then I started caking up this week once things calmed down a little bit. And I'm excited to start. I am going to do the Adventurer scarf and wrap by Amdo O'Brien, I think is the Instagram name. I'll fix that because I'm sure I messed that up and left out something. But I'm going to do them in the order that I opened them in. So day 1 through 25. There's a lot of blues in this mix, and I feel like I could probably, if I really wanted to, reorder them, but I really want to keep that authentic, like as if I was knitting the project the day that I opened the advent. So that's where I'm at. I'm gonna have to cut my video off here because my phone is running out of storage and I don't have very much long left before it starts cutting me out of things. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you had fun seeing all of the things that have been finished, that are in progress. I'll have my Ravelry below. That's where I track all of my projects. I don't have everything I've ever done there, but I have for the last year or so now been trying to put up everything that I do as soon as I start it and keep track of notes, what hooks or needles I'm using, things that I modify, all that good stuff. Photos, you name it. So that's there. My other social media will be down there. And Happy New Year. Happy 2021.